This is the art of startup war. And my name is Brian McMahon, your host and sensei. Here is what we know. 98% of startups will fail every single day, and mostly due to reasons outside your control. The Expert Dojo Startup Accelerator, we look to even up the playing field by sitting down with the greatest minds in startup investment right here in our studio in Silicon Beach, where we look to shine a light on your path to success. Now, our guests each week have invested millions of dollars into startups and are the most respected investors in the world. Now, they share all they know with you, the listener. So join us on Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, starting off your week winning the war against startup failure. Welcome back. It's the Art of Startup War again. It's Tuesday morning. It is 10 o'clock. You got Brian here, your host, and I'm still in the fridge. We still haven't moved from the fridge. Today, I got Pavel here, and you've come all the way down from San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
And it is such a pleasure to have you here. You're one of the top firms in the United States. For me, I always thought of you as venture capital, but you're now leading the charge in the crypto space. So we get a double treat today, right?
Well, we are a venture capital. So think of us as venture capital, just looking at blockchain with the new business models there. But it's no different from any other venture capital investments.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your journey personally, about how you got into the business, and then maybe moving forward to what type of startups you like and why?
Yeah, so I started as an entrepreneur myself back in Russia, in Moscow, where I was born and lived pretty much all of my life.
Yeah.
I started two large companies in digital advertising. One became part of WPP Group, another became part of Denso Aegis Group.
Yeah.
And I also started a company that became number one in customer relationship management software in Russia.
And that's no easy feat in Russia, right? I lived there for a while myself. I lived long enough to say spasiba and до свидания. That was it.
And я тебя люблю, I love you. That's all you need to know.
No, I'm too afraid to say those words in Russia. Those Russian girls scare me.
Well, it was a great market for a while.
Yeah.
After the Soviet Union collapsed, and it was completely empty, and a lot of great niches and
Right.
a lot of opportunity for tech investment as well. Recently, the market is going down the toilet, and so 4.5 years ago, I moved to US. Oh, actually, in between, so I had the entrepreneurial part.
Yeah.
Then I did corporate business for some time. So I launched Adobe in Russia and 11 countries, and I also launched Microsoft Online Services division in the region, working more as a half entrepreneur, half corporate manager, and gaining experience from big companies. But then I realized that I'm probably too bored to do a corporate job, and I'm not as hungry as I used to be to do entrepreneurial jobs. So I switched to the dark side of venture capital.
Yeah.
And I had my first fund, and then moved to San Francisco. And
how did you do your first fund? So how did you decide how much money you were going to put into it, where you were going to get it from, what were the sectors you were going to go for? Did you decide, hey, let's go for the specific areas that I know about, or were you saw the opportunities were here?
Yeah, so my pitch to investors in the first fund was the following. I said, look, I made my money doing ventures, and then I started investing this money, and I failed miserably in real estate. I failed miserably in stock markets. Yeah. In many other things.
God bless you, I understand. My wife would really be cringing right now.
And the only thing I could manage to succeed was finding early stage startups and helping them with small amount of money and a critical advice in the right moment so that they can grow.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what I want to keep doing. So I'm putting my
And
own money.
how young were those startups at that stage? Were they pre-seed or seed or a little bit later?
At that moment, I did a lot of pre-seed and seed.
Wow. It's a hard world we live in the pre-seed.
So as I grow and as I get more gray hair, I move up the chain to later stage.
Yeah.
Because that's where you can. It's not only about risk; it's about the leverage. So I can do early stage as well, but I want to do big deals. Right. I would rather put a $20 million seed round in a company that I strongly believe than, put a 50,000 check and wait for another 5 years before you can see if it's a boy and a girl.
Yeah. Okay.
So so that's my thesis. I would say it's very confusing about stages, but I only care about two things. I care about the team, of course, and the motivation behind the team, and I would care to see the working product. So if I can see the working product, if I can see that the technology is working already, this can be proven, and the team behind this is strong enough, I have a competitive advantage comparing to bigger funds because they will require the market valuation, the business model, and everything. And I say, screw that. I don't need this for now. If you have a good product, let's do business.
Right. And what does a great team look like at that type of level, especially the CEO? What are you looking for? Did you see them straight away and you're like, this is the one? Or is it a resume you go through where you tick the boxes of skills they require?
No, it's a process because the best founders look dangerously similar to.
I thought you were going to say unstable.
To sick
because you're looking
people.
At me.
No, they look. The difference between the genius, passionate entrepreneur and a reckless, stupid guy who will run the bus off the cliff is
1 degree.
1 degree. So you have to know. First you look for people who look like that, but then you have to differentiate.
It's actually really smart. So you look for the person who is that 1 degree away, and then you check their track record to see have they crashed any buses recently, right? And it's okay if they've crashed a bus. It's just how many people have they killed?
That's right.
With the bus that they have. Okay, and then do you look for, because obviously the stage that you're at, I know you said 20 million seed, but it's a pretty big seed, right? For most of us, especially down here, it's kind of it's an A and a bit, really, a serious A and a bit.
Yeah, I must say we only did one seed like that size.
Yeah,
we did $50,000 checks as well. It's just that statistically those investments don't work very well. There's a larger and more aggressive fund that will take and eat your lunch after you if you do the hard work with a $50,000 check, but then you don't have enough money to do the follow-on for 10 million.
So the money's in the follow-on, and that's the way a lot of
the value.
Investors.
So the one who's putting the $10 million check is taking all the benefit out of it without taking the risk.
Yeah.
So you can still do the $50,000 check, but you need to be prepared, or you need to have somebody who will do the follow-on at your terms, so that you don't lose your value that you created with this initial $50,000 check.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal market. Do you like specific sectors? Or are you agnostic as long as the product is right and the entrepreneur is right?
Well, we tend to, at any moment of time, there are certain hits or certain areas that attract more attention.
Like AI.
AI is our top priority now. Self-driving transport.
Yeah. Last mile logistics is coming through.
Well, no, we don't do logistics. We focus on areas where the technology can make a huge difference without the need to invest into the infrastructure.
Right.
The only exception would be with blockchain. Blockchain is where
I want to get to blockchain. Yeah,
you have to invest in infrastructure now. But for the other sectors, I would say no infrastructure investments. Only areas where you can build where you can bring a killer product that will change the economics of the whole market by at least 10x.
You like wireless security?
I like security overall. I don't know about wireless specifically, but I think security is also in top 3 priority now.
If I told you about a company, 802 Secure, they started the company themselves, started it with some seed money, got a $8 million contract with AT&T, got another $5 or $6 million, with only a team of 12, 13 people, got a $6 million contract, I believe, with Cottage Industries, signed up with 4 of the biggest hotels in Vegas, and got the firemen in San Francisco, all as clients within their 3rd year. Is that something or still too early?
No, my question would be, do they have a product? You said nothing about the product.
They have a product, which is already installed in all these places. That's why they got the contracts. And a product which works and has been proven.
if they have a product that's interesting, from what you say, it sounds like they don't have a product, that they do a service. When you see the business model coming before the killer product, it's a warning signal to me.
Yeah.
If the killer product is there, why would they need to do? Why can't they go for $100 million contract? So that's where if you see somebody getting an $8 million contract, and then the product is not clear yet, it's more like a service play. But I know nothing about the company, so I probably need to look closer into it. If there is a product there, and the product can scale to hundreds of millions without the need to send engineers all over the place, those ones are interesting.
Okay, tell me the final piece, because I know you have to go to a meeting. Blockchain. So there was a moment where you just woke up one day, right? Or was it just over a period of time where you thought to yourself, there's a whole new world here, and it's a whole new money, and it's coming, or it's already arrived, and we need to be here? Because it's really risky, because it's such a new space, considering the space that you've known for the last 20 or 30 years. How did it happen?
Yeah, it wasn't one day. So there was a 2-year preparation. There was a lot of discussion about the future and everything. But then we thought, okay, we'll look into it tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And this tomorrow was moving for a couple of months. And then one of our portfolio companies called Storage, that is doing distributed storage, and we were an equity investor in them. They came to us because they wanted to use our space. We bought an old church building in San Francisco, and we turned it into an event venue and a co-living space for startup founders, and it's a cool place. So they wanted to use the space for their ICO, and by providing for their launch, yes, and by providing the space, and then seeing all of those people and seeing tens of millions of dollars coming in together into the ICO, I realized that it's not the day. I'm already late, so we need to catch up, and we need to catch up now. And we put everything aside, compiled a team, brought a lot of analytics from our portfolio companies, and started to analyze the space.
Wow. And do you ever get nervous? I don't want this to be a leading question, but that entrepreneurs are going from pre-seed to Series C in 5 minutes. Like they're 1 minute there are pre-seed companies that would be raising 50 or 100K, but they're geniuses, right? And they have this great project, and the next minute they've raised $50 million.
Oh yeah, and then you look very stupid because you gave all this criticism and you said you need to do this and you need to do that, and then they come and say, screw you, we just raised $50 million.
But are they prepared for it? That's the case. I think there's a learning cycle as you go through the stages. The nice thing about the stages is you kind of know you have to be a different entrepreneur to make it all the way through the 4 or 5 stages. Or you get
replaced.
Yes,
that's correct, and I think that's a big pain. As I said during the panel, we're trying to put together large corporations with blockchains for some specific use cases, and this could bring billions of dollars in value onto those blockchains, but many of them don't really care about getting to this stage, and they're overexcited about building more features. Like every startup, rather than go out and kick their product into the market
and build something,
they over produce features until they're out of money.
Yeah.
So getting out of money is the great moment to go out to market and start selling your product. If your run rate, and that's why venture investors prefer to fund a maximum of 6 to 9 months of run rate for the startup, so that there is a motivation for them to move. If the startup has enough run rate for the next 20 years, there is a big concern if they ever come back to the market with something meaningful.
Yeah. Where do you see crypto going? And how deep have you decided to go into it as a company? I mean, as far as size of fund.
I think this is forever. This is like Internet 95. Yeah. So this is going to change a lot of industries, and this is actually going to change the global democracy as well. The voting decisions on the global scale, how the wealth is being distributed through the world. So this will have a huge impact, and I think it's only starting. So the Bitcoin and Ethereum showed the proven that the concept is working. Yeah. But now there's a new wave of tens of new interesting projects coming up that will actually implement this, bring this promise to the market.
Yeah,
implement it.
I love that. And look, I know you have to shoot, and the last thing I want to do is for you to be late. I just have one last question, just to bring you back into the time when you just started off as an entrepreneur. And I think whether we're opening up in China pretty soon and over in Israel as well. And the thing I've just seen about the world, I've lived in lots of countries too, is that it's kind of all the same. Like other than a few, political issues and capital issues there, we have the same needs and wants and everything else. If you bring yourself back to when you started, and all of the entrepreneurs who are listening to the show now, who are thousands of people around LA and beyond, what advice would you give them as far as building their business, growing their business? And it can be about a specific types of business they should go for, or how it grows, or where they should go to, or what the options are, anything at all.
I would say that first, only start if you are ready, if you get excited by the process more than the outcome. Yeah. If you like it independently of if you become successful or not.
You gotta love this, right?
It's the only gotta love this. It's the only way to survive through the pain. It's such a pain for several years.
I had just a quick side. I remember my kid was talking to some of his friends in a school party, and he said to his friends, it's not about that. It's about the journey. And then my wife shouted across. She says, "How many times have I told you not to listen to your father?" You gotta love it, right? You just gotta love it.
And my first angel investor signing the check said, "Do you realize for the next 6 months you'll have no sexual life?" Which was absolutely
just
true.
6 months. That's great.
Yeah, at least 6 months. You just cannot think of even sex for quite some time.
It's everything. It's true. It's all
and it can be very miserable.
Yeah.
And the only way to overcome this, I think, is first to love it, but second is to do very, very quick iterations.
Yeah.
So think not that you have to build the best product, bring it to the market, and win the market.
Yeah.
Think about this process that you have to do it at least 20 times.
Yeah.
The most successful companies do it 20 times, and you need to be prepared.
Slack, right?
Yeah. So you do if your iteration is 2 weeks, then in 2 years you almost surely come with a great product. If your iteration is 6 months, you're never gonna the chance for success is very low.
Yeah.
So if you can push your iterations to 2 weeks, the full iteration, you build the concept. You think how to prove it. You bring it to the market. You test it on real life and real clients. You fail. You get the experience. You get back to the whiteboard and you start over again. And you need to do it 20 times by 2 week or even week iterations.
Yeah.
And that's the only success formula I've seen so far. So people who do it in any business, they succeed.
Yeah.
People who go back to their engineering desk and design the best product in the world, and they close their doors for 6 months and then come back, realize that during the 6 months, those other type of companies already made 5 iterations and they are 5 times ahead of you.
But can we do that ourselves as founders, or do we need to have just really strong people around us? Because sometimes we're so deep in the weeds, it's hard to see outside.
Yeah, maybe maybe investors or co-founders can help, but I think it's in the mindset of the founder. It has to come from the founder himself.
Yeah.
He shouldn't or she shouldn't sleep well until this iteration is complete. He should get excited about this idea of bringing the product as early as possible to the market, and maybe get excited with the failure and know that you will fail with the first iterations, which is completely fine.
Yeah, wonderful. Look, GVA Capital, you are such a positive support to entrepreneurs everywhere, from coming up yourself to the funds you've built to moving into blockchain now. For all of our poor entrepreneurs in Expert Dojo who have aspirations of being less poor, we thank you for being in the community, for helping us out, for being there, for coming down to events like this at the Dojo and just supporting us and doing all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
You got a house here whenever you want to come.
Good luck. You do a great job here.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, we're signing out. That's it. That's a wrap. Again, until 10 o'clock next Tuesday, we'll be back again with another phenomenal investor supporting the startup community. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. If you know any other entrepreneur equally ambitious as you, then share this podcast by paying it forward to other entrepreneurs who are building your own army. Now, as always, our website, expertdojo.com, is packed with information to help you grow your business, find investment and train for victory. We also walk our talk and invest in startups every year in our accelerator here in Silicon Beach. You can always reach out to me at brian@expertdojo.com, and I look forward to being back here again at our regular time next Tuesday, 10 a.m. with another of the world's top investors, helping you win the war against startup failure.